Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, we're finally getting into pretty much normal weather for around here. If you're from the Ozarks, or well, really a lot of the places in the Midwest, and the South, and West, and East, and every other place, there's a lot of places that are dealing with unusual spring weather, and we are definitely one of those places. So we're just now really kind of getting to our garden, and you see behind me an area that's nothing's planted in it yet. This is an addition that we're working on. It'll expand our garden. Most of the main garden is up, not up, but planted, and some of it's up already. But this has been the struggle this year, and we've talked about it on this channel a few times. You know, the changing of weather patterns and the grand solar minimum that's affecting things. So, and I do have a point to today's video. So anyways, this here behind me this will almost double the garden, and I'm not quite 100% decided what all is going to go in it, or we haven't yet, but it's almost ready for planting. Now, we wanted to do this part last year also, but for those of you that don't know, we took possession of this property a year ago. We decided to start fresh with a new homestead, and because this place, the land was just so optimal, and the price and everything, but it was raw. And so where I'm standing right now, where our garden is, well, we took possession the end of last March. And so when we took possession of it, this part right here was taller than my head, of a mixture of weeds, grass, and a lot of blackberry. So while it's certainly not perfect, in a year's time, we have done a lot of work. I'm talking about gardens because I want to give you a little tip, and then we'll move on to some things. This is a tip on how we seed plant. And a lot of people kind of fall into a category like myself, that you're getting older, maybe you have medical problems. I have a spinal cord injury and surgery that it makes it difficult for me to always be bending over, planting seeds, or stooping over, or on my knees sometimes. And so a method that we use, let me get my little improvised tools, and I know you can buy seeding, the little machines that you seed, but this is free. So I start off with just an old handle, probably a rake or hoe handle, and go down the row and take this and shove it in and make a little hole, however deep that you need it, depending on what you're planting. And so I stick it in the hole and kind of give it a little twist. That way the ground doesn't stick to it, and you pull it out and you have a nice little hole, right? And then you go back by there with a piece of PVC pipe. Okay, this is a 1/2-inch PVC pipe. I find it better to have the pipe smaller diameter than the hole that you're digging, and I'll explain why. And you stick that down there, and you just drop your seeds down that pipe, and it slides down into the hole. And then when you get done, all you do is you take your little hoe and you go back through and you cover up your holes. The reason why you want to make sure that this is smaller diameter is if it goes into the hole and catches the dirt, it'll start filling up the end with dirt. And as you can see, it's happened a few times. The kids were trying it out and they kept getting dirt all clogged up in this. But if you keep the dirt out of it, you just hold that down there and you drop your seeds. I think I may still have a few seeds in my pocket. And you just take your seed and you drop it down, and there it is. And it's an easy way to plant in the ground without stooping over, bending over, direct seed planting. It may not work with every particular ones, because certain plants you have to do something a little different, but with most things it works. Beans, corn, things like that. And so it saves your back. You don't have to bend over, squat down on your knees, crawling around. You just go through and make a hole, make a hole, make a hole, and then go back through and sit that there and drop your seeds in it, and then go back through and cover them up with a little hoe. And it's an easy little trick to planting. And the last video I think I made was about gardening and about food, and so part of me was like, well, let's talk about something different, because I talk about that all the time, and people are probably sick and tired of talking about the reasons why you need to be stocking up on food, and you need to be growing food, and you need to be learning how to preserve it and can it and dry it and all that kind of stuff. But folks, this is serious. It's in the news all the time. Inflation, shortages. I still get a few people comment on here and say, well, things look good in my area. Store shelves are full here. Maybe that's so in some areas. But from what I'm getting from most people and that comment on here and from just news articles, the vast majority of America is experiencing some, at least fluctuations in the supply system. Even here, when we go to the store, rarely is every shelf completely filled. There's always something that's a shortage of. They're either completely out of it, or there's not as much as they would normally have, or they've just completely discontinued it and just put something else there, whatever it is. And talking to the businesses that we go to do our business, they all say the same thing, that we're still struggling to get things in. It's still tough, and our suppliers are telling us it's only going to get worse, and the prices are going up. Talked to a guy at one of the local lumber yards the other day, and he said they're telling us that lumber is going to start going up more, that there's no end in sight right now. He said they're saying that their suppliers are telling them it's just going to keep going up for a while. This is never a good scenario for any nation to experience this, especially a nation like ours where there's no reason for it. We are a very prosperous nation. We have the capabilities. We are one of the few. I read this once, and if you really think about it, I believe it's true. We are one of the few nations on this earth that we have the capabilities. Doesn't mean we do this, but we are capable of being a completely self-sufficient nation. We have enough resources in this nation. We're big enough. We have enough resources that if we really wanted to be, we could be pretty much self-sufficient. I mean, we may not have everything that we, have now, but we could. We have. There's enough oil. There's enough other resources that if we really wanted to be, we could be. But of course, we're not. And we live in a very global economy, and it's starting to get a lot of cracks in it. It's starting to break down, and we're starting to see the weaknesses in the supply chain, the weaknesses in our dollar, the weaknesses in our economy and in the economy of the planet as a whole. And while many of us, you and I, many of you have known this for a long time, and we've talked about this, and my mother, she's staying with us for a couple of weeks, and we were talking, and she said, Travis, you've been talking about this stuff for years. You've been trying to get people to realize this for years. I said, yeah. And she said, but it's now a lot of this stuff that you've talked about 10 years ago, it's finally starting to happen. And that's the thing. A lot of this stuff, it's like it's finally catching up with us. And it's catching up with us in a bad way. And like I said a few videos back, even if the end of the world, huge apocalyptic scenarios don't happen that people often talk about, World War III and, an EMP or the grid crashing and, this global pandemic that takes out tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people. Even if those levels of catastrophic events don't happen in our lifetime and our children's lifetime, I think it's pretty safe to say that massive economic changes, that massive supply changes, and the fact that our nation is no longer holds its spot in a supreme nation that it once was. These things are happening. You look at the population increases that are constantly every year. We're growing and growing as a planet, and yet there's more and more of these restrictions being put on producing things to save the environment. Some of the Biden administration is some of their plans. They're wanting to basically pay farmers again, which we've done this as a nation before, and it was a really dumb idea the last time we did it. But pay farmers not to produce crops, pay them not to produce a lot of crops, And this is a really dumb idea, but here we are doing it. And we're doing a lot of other things, a lot of restrictions that is going to hurt us in our pocketbook, that's going to hurt us in just our general supply of goods. And it could cause things to exacerbate very rapidly. And it's not just having a few less things at the grocery store shelves or paying a little bit more. I mean, those that's already happening. We've been dealing with that for over a year now. These things can get worse, and it's very likely that they could get worse, to the point that we could start seeing problems like we see in Venezuela, where there just isn't stuff, and the stuff that they have is extremely expensive because their money has no value anymore, and because people are hungry, because people need medicine, because people are tired of seeing their children cry because they're starving or they just need a drink of water, people end up in committing violent acts against each other. And we're already seeing violence increase on the streets of America. So the likelihood that as things become more and more limited supply, that people could start fighting over goods, and not just because of some ridiculous reason of whatever people are fighting each other on the streets for. These are very likely progressions in our society because of the direction that we're headed. And so, folks, while you may get tired of me, some of you are okay with it, but some of you, I know, you get tired of it. You get tired of hearing about stocking up on food and buying beans and rice and canned green beans and all that kind of stuff. You get tired of me talking about the freeze-dried stuff and going and buying some of it and stocking up on it. You get tired of me telling you to grow a garden and to raise animals and to learn how to forage and hunt and learn how to preserve all these things. But we have experienced as a people, not just Americans, but as this planet, times of desperation and times of droughts and of plagues and of famines throughout history, where people died because there wasn't enough food, or there wasn't enough medicine, or there wasn't adequate clean water, where people fought civil wars over these things. And I think it's very arrogant of us to think that we're too modern and we're too evolved, or we're too, intellectual now to get back to that place that we once were as a human species hundreds of years ago. We fought over those kind of things. Because look at the streets of America today. People are fighting and killing each other over really ridiculous things. And you think that people today wouldn't fight and kill each other because they don't have water, because they don't have food, or because they don't have medicine? They most certainly would. And so just like you have insurance on your car, and you have insurance on your house, and you have insurance on yourself, prepping, growing a garden, raising animals, learning how to can your vegetables and preserve your meat, can the meat, dehydrate the meat, smoke it, whatever it is, that's an insurance policy too. It's an insurance policy for the day when the scale tips just a little too far to the bad side, a little too far to the extreme, when that last piece of straw lays on that camel's back, and we realize that we're no longer really a civilized society. We're no longer a society of plenty. We're no longer a society of mutual respect and of the ability to have the basic needs that to just get by in life. And when that time comes, having the things that you see on this channel and on other channels like mine, that's our insurance policy. That's our little insurance policy to help us get through that. Is it 100% guaranteed that we're going to take care of ourselves because of it? Do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that myself and my family are absolutely okay no matter what's thrown at us? No, absolutely not. That's not what it means at all. Just like your car insurance doesn't absolutely mean that you're completely taken care of in a wreck. What it means is it's given me a much better chance of survival. It's giving my family a little bit better chance than the average person of making it through troubled times. And we're already seeing those troubled times, people. And I think we're going to start seeing them a lot more often, and a lot worse. So stock up, plant food, raise animals. I'll even give you a couple of these goats because they drive me nuts. My daughters would be mad at me if I did, so I probably actually wouldn't. But folks, I'm serious. The world is changing, and don't let it get to the point that you wake up one day and you realize it's already too late. It's just an insurance policy. That's all it is. You're just putting some time and some money into the insurance policy to protect your family and to give them a little bit better chance, or even a lot better chance, of surviving through really bad, rough times. And isn't your family worth that? Aren't you worth that? I mean, you buy car insurance, you buy house insurance, you buy other kinds of insurance because you care about your family. Well, this is one other way to show that you care about your family, and that's staying prepared for the things that are happening, the things that are almost 100% likely to happen, and then also those things that they're very possible they could happen too. Because we live in a very uncertain times and an uncertain world, and things are changing rapidly, and I don't think I have to tell you too many times for you to believe that. What's it take? Well, it takes some work, takes some time, a little bit of money, but the rewards far outweigh the time and the work and the money that you put into it. And I assure you of that. You and your family, and if you have children, especially your children, they will enjoy it. And it's, if nothing else, it's good time spent with your family, working on making your own food. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.